report the amendment of the gentleman from Illinois.
Amendment to the amendment in the nature of a substitute to H.R. 2826 offered by Mr. Gutierrez. Page 11, after
Without
line...
objection, the amendment is considered as read, and the gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes on his amendment.
Mr. Chairman, the amendment calls for a study by the General Accounting Office to issue a report investigating the number of refugees who are denied admission as refugees to the U.S. and are subsequently killed or harmed. We should all have learned about the St. Louis, the ocean liner that was turned away because of strict immigration quotas and anti-Semitism in the years before the United States entered World War II. In 1939, the United States refused to admit 900 Jewish refugees, 900 Jews who fled Nazi Germany in 1939 on the MS St. Louis, which planned to stop in Cuba and then continue on in an attempt to gain entry into the United States. Unable to enter, the passengers were forced to return to Europe, where a number of countries accepted some of them, but 254 of them were killed in death camps of the Holocaust. But today, when we turn away refugees and asylum seekers fleeing violence, there are also deadly consequences. 83 deportees were murdered in the Northern Triangle, which is to say Central American countries of El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras during the period of 2014 to 2015. Included among the 83 murders of deportees was Jose Marvin Martinez. He was 16 years old when he fled Honduras to the U.S. after his brother was shot and killed by gang members. In August 2014, he was tracked down, deported, and he was sent back to Honduras. In December, 4 months after he was deported, Martinez was sitting outside a corner shop in San Manuel when a gunman opened fire from a truck, killing him. Another murder victim, Angel Diaz, 26, was sent away to the U.S. by his father after his brother was kidnapped by a Honduran gang and beaten almost to death. In 2015, Diaz was arrested by police and sent directly to a detention center for deportees, then deported in July. Days later, he was shot dead on a local bus. It is assumed by local gang members. Juan Francisco Diaz was deported back to his hometown in Honduras in 2015, having lived in the U.S. for 3 years. 4 months after deportation, he was found dead lying in an alleyway by his parents in their neighborhood. These are anecdotal cases that we discovered through the news media, but to the people who were murdered and their families, they're clearly not anecdotes. They are real people who were killed. When I think of these young men not granted asylum and returned to the country they fled, I think about the people who almost turned away from the United States this year by President Trump, had the courts not intervened and blocked the president's ban, and those who might be in the next 90 days. Had Americans not gone to airports to block the Republican policy, and had Americans not gone to the courts to block the president's Muslim ban, how many more thousands of asylum seekers and refugees might have been sent back to Syria and elsewhere? Now, we'll see what happens when the Supreme Court finally deals with this case. But I think that history is abundant. The St. Louis, the Nazis put them on a boat and said, we don't want them. We don't want these Jews. So they put them on a boat. What did the United States of America do? We said, we don't want them either. And hundreds of them died in Nazi concentration camps. Let's not repeat that history once again. We see what happens in Central America, in Honduras, and El Salvador, and in Guatemala. And they come seeking refuge to this country, and we send them back, and they are murdered. So, literally life and death decisions. So all I'm asking for is a GAO report to see those who are not allowed to stay in the United States and see if they are harmed or if they are murdered so that we can have a record of what it is we are doing with our immigration policies today. And I return the balance of my time.
For the purpose of the gentleman from Idaho, seek recognition.
Mr. Chairman, I oppose the amendment.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
I think this amendment should be rejected because first, the first part of it is not quantifiable. You're asking a